What's up, everybody? Nick Baumgardner here from The Athletic, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Texas running back Bijan Robinson, why people are so afraid of drafting running backs early in the NFL draft, and why you shouldn't be with this guy. Who is Bijan Robinson? The grandnephew of former All-Pro running back Paul Robinson, who had a starring role with the Bengals in the late 60s, Bijan set Arizona high school state records for touchdowns with 114 and rushing yards with 7,036, which is ridiculous, becoming the first player in state history to record 3 straight 2,000-yard rushing seasons. Robinson was a major West Coast recruit by the close of his freshman season, and he actually caught a 52-yard touchdown pass on his first career touch as a varsity football player at South Point Catholic in 2016. He eventually blossomed into a 5-star recruit and picked Texas over basically everyone in the country that matters in college football. He also took visits to USC and Ohio State, but ultimately picked Texas thanks in large part to then running backs coach Stan Drayton, who's now the head coach at Temple, who convinced Robinson that Drayton's experience coaching Zeke Elliott at Ohio State would help the pair find a similar path for Robinson at Texas. The Longhorns even had him chat with Matthew McConaughey on the sidelines during his visit. I can't imagine that hurt. Robinson said that was a cool experience, and the entire Texas experience was what ultimately led him to becoming a Texas Longhorn. In 3 years at Texas, Robinson rushed for more than 3,400 yards and scored 41 touchdowns, joining ridiculously elite company in James Saxton, Earl Campbell, and the great Ricky Williams as the 4th unanimous All-American running back in the historic history of Texas football. Athletically, the 5'11", 215-pound Robinson posted elite speed times at the NFL Combine with a 4.4 640 and a 2.56 flying 20. A 37-inch vertical jump and a broad jump of 10 feet also showed elite explosion numbers. In so many ways, physically, Robinson is a slightly slower version of Edgerrin James. He's also not that much different than Barry Sanders, believe it or not. His speed and explosion numbers are actually closer to what Sanders put up in his pre-draft process. His size and ability to catch the ball at that size, out of the backfield, in the slot, or out wide, is actually much closer to Edgerrin James. Contrary to popular belief, this actually happens. It is still valued in the NFL. The last 5 in order are Breece Hall in 2022 went to the Jets, Najee Harris in 2021 went to the Steelers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2020 went to the Chiefs, Josh Jacobs in 2019 goes to the Raiders, and Saquon Barkley in 2018, of course, to the Giants. The jury's still out on Hall and CEH. However, Jacobs and Harris, who were both picked number 24 overall, ironically enough, have been everything their teams hoped for and probably more. Barkley is in the unicorn running back bucket that many think Robinson also belongs in. Barkley is the rare type of 4-down, multifaceted back who is not only good enough to carry a sizable load immediately and throughout his rookie deal, but will possibly have enough value at the end of that deal to merit or at least explore an extension. Leonard Fournette went number 4 overall in 2017 and eventually helped the Bucs win a Super Bowl before being cut this offseason, so not too bad. Zeke Elliott, who we talked about earlier, went number 4 to Dallas in 2016. He rushed for more than 8,000 yards during a very productive 7-year run that just ended. Christian McCaffrey went number 8 overall and now owns several NFL records, including 116 catches in a single season, and is a superstar and probably the definition of a modern star running back for the 49ers. Where does Robinson fit on this entire list? The NFL is constantly changing the way it runs offense, and thus it's constantly changing the way it values certain positions like running back, especially when those running backs are potentially generational like Bijan Robinson. I'm not willing to sit here and tell you today that he's a better prospect than Saquon Barkley, but I think we can say, without hesitation, he's the best running back prospect the NFL has seen since Barkley left Penn State ahead of the 2018 NFL Draft. Why is he this good? Why is Bijan Robinson so special, and why are we talking about him? We can start actually with his knee bending, his knees. Robinson forced more than 100 missed tackles as a junior, which is more than anyone has ever created during Pro Football Focus's era of charting these things, which is insane. 100 in a season is crazy enough. He had more than that. In so many of Robinson's crazy highlight runs, he finds ways to create space for himself inside of a phone booth by getting lower to the ground than his opponent while he's in the process of cutting or making a move. He doesn't bend at the waist or lower his shoulder and brace for impact. Part of the reason why Barry Sanders was so good for so long was that his wiggle, aided by a terrific knee bend, ensured that he rarely took any serious hits. So many of Sanders' special runs that people still remember from all those years ago were created simply because he was able to get himself lower to the ground without losing his balance or ability to burst before simply changing course and leaving multiple defenders in the dirt. Robinson has a similar feel to the way he runs the football. He's not afraid of contact, but his ability to either roll off a defender with a spin he's already set up moments before, or simply dart around like a jackrabbit looking for open space is really what sets him apart. Bijan Robinson finds rush lanes when there are no rush lanes to be found. A good running back will find the space or the yards that are blocked for him. For example, if an offensive line creates, let's say, 3 yards on a run, a good back will find that lane and get you those 3 yards every time without exception. A great back will find that lane, get you those 3 yards, and squeak out extra yardage almost every time. An elite back will do all those things and find space when there's nowhere to be found and turn all that into a touchdown. That is what Bijan Robinson can bring to the table. Take a look at this run from his game against Kansas last season, one of the craziest highlight tapes you will see from a back in recent years, and it's probably his signature run from his time at Texas, and it shows you how he can be everything all at once. Texas had good offensive linemen during Robinson's run, but he constantly made them look great, even when they made mistakes. Everything about Robinson's ability to control his body and get himself as low to the ground as possible mid-stride before making a cut or shift in direction impacts every area of his game, including his ability to be a receiver, not just an average one, a great one. And not just out of the backfield either, but from the slot or out wide or really anywhere else you want to move him. Robinson wound up with 60 catches in his 3 years at Texas, and that number probably could have been much higher if Texas wanted it to be. He did not drop a pass last season. His average depth of target last year came in at 6.8, which is actually higher than any other Power 5 back who had at least 25 catches last season, meaning he can line up in the slot or anywhere, press defensive backs with an expanded route tree that goes well beyond what your average back is going to do. He's much more than a screen back, much more than a swing back. He can do a lot of stuff. Take this crazy catch he makes against Iowa State last year as an example. You see here, he's lined up in the slot, and he's running a 15-yard post that's going to break toward the middle of the field. Pay close attention to how he attacks the safety with his route right off the break. He's in total control of his body and the pace at which he's moving. His shoulders are square as he's screaming upfield and planning at his landmark, whipping his head around and presenting a terrific target for the quarterback, exactly like a wide receiver would. It actually gets better as the ball is kind of high and Robinson's able to go up in the air and show you that he can high point and finish again, like a wide receiver. He runs routes in space with the discipline and timing of a wide receiver. Do not let the fact that Texas did not use him a ton in this area convince you otherwise. This is more than a player who could catch the occasional screen. He's a full 4-down running back who never has to come off the field. Bijan Robinson can be on the field with another back in creative 21 personnel sets where he's working from the slot or wide or in motion. He can be the downhill guy running power or counter between the tackles. He can be your outside zone guy. He is an offensive weapon. Bijan Robinson can do everything on a football field but throw a pass. And he probably actually can do that too if you asked him to. He'll even block. Take this creative lead sweep Texas ran last year featuring both Bijan and backfield mate Roschon Johnson, a draft prospect himself, in the backfield without a quarterback. For the defense, there's a lot to think about here, but the fact that Bijan Robinson's back there actually makes it even worse than it would be normally because he's a player who can make something happen even when he doesn't touch the ball. It's all-out effort all the time. Robinson's touches at Texas were limited in part because he shared the backfield with a talented player in Johnson. However, Robinson never complained or whined or cried. He and Johnson became very close, and if you were at the Combine, you no doubt heard Robinson talk about how terrific Johnson is and how any team that drafts him will be very happy in the end.
think that people should overlook the talent that he has and the skill set that he brings because, I think he's just as good as anybody. And I think just his toughness and his heart is what makes him stand out over everybody.
If there's any area of Robinson's game that is in need of immediate attention, it would be ball security, as he did fumble 6 times during his 3 years at Texas. Backs like Robinson, who create so many missed tackles, can also have problems with getting too far off script on a given run play, where they either dance in the hole or make one too many cuts and get themselves in trouble that just isn't necessary. Robinson can be guilty of that at times and will need to tighten that up in the NFL. Bottom line, though, your team has to be ready for Robinson if you draft him. He's going to be ready to give you a lot right away on his rookie contract. And if you're a contender or close to being one, he could be the guy or the offensive piece that puts you over the top throughout the course of his rookie deal. He could also be the rare running back who is worth an extension or at least exploring one beyond that. At minimum, the team that drafts Bijan Robinson will be adding one of the game's most exciting offensive playmakers for at least the next 4 years and likely beyond.